everyone, and welcome back. I cannot believe we're already in week 4 of our 4-part series on emotional intelligence. I hope you have been able to join us for all 4 of these because each one builds upon the next and is foundational to the other. But today is part 4. As those of you know, if you've joined us in the other series, this is an abbreviated version that we are offering free of charge as just part of a give back for what we all are experiencing during this COVID-19 virus. And we really believe that emotional intelligence always is crucial and important, but even more now as we are in this time of learning how to manage ourselves differently in this whole new world. So that's why we wanted to give back this abbreviated version. Typically, this is a half day to a full day program that we do. It includes a workbook and an emotional intelligence assessment. But these 4 series will really give you some good foundational tools, especially if you've engaged with us, done the activities that we've invited you to do, and practiced and participated in the homework. So let me introduce myself. My name is Michelle Braden. I'm the president and CEO of MSBCoach. MSBCoach stands for Managing Successful Balance in Business. We are a boutique executive and high potential leadership coaching and team building firm located in Charlottesville, Virginia. We do both national and international work, and I am going to have the honor and privilege to lead you through this final series of our 4-series program on emotional intelligence. So as an overview, today we'll take a moment to review the 4 areas of emotional intelligence. Our focus today is on relationship management. We'll talk about how do we practice relationship management? What are the benefits of relationship management? We'll do a quick review, and then we'll tie our homework over the last 4 weeks together. And yes, of course, we'll give you some homework for session 4. So in review, the 4 areas of emotional intelligence and what we have covered over the last 3 weeks is, first of all, self-awareness, the foundational element of being aware of what's going on internally inside of ourselves. Self-management, how we then are intentional to manage ourselves from what we've become aware of. Social awareness, how we are aware of others around us, how they might be feeling, how we're impacting them, how they're impacting us, and then practicing our own self-management and social awareness around that so that we're showing up the way that we would choose to show up. And then today, we're going to talk about relationship management. This is our area of focus today. How do we now enhance and build better relationships by practicing these 3 other areas? So let's take a moment, and as we have defined each of the other elements of emotional intelligence in the other parts of this series, I'm going to ask you to jot down, what does relationship management mean to you? So relationship management increases your understanding that what you express emotionally has impact on others. And then it allows you to take into account how you are impacting others with your emotions when dealing with people and building relationships. So how is my own self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness impacting my relationship with others? Relationship management creates awareness that the nature of relationship is determined by how emotions are communicated within that relationship, both positive and negative. This doesn't mean we're not talking Pollyanna-ish. We're talking about, of course, we're going to have challenging times, but how do we communicate that? If you remember, in our very first session, we talked about words have power, which is why the homework in our very first session was really all about learning how to put words to the emotions that we're feeling. Relationship management also helps us to understand and how to manage how the other 3 aspects of emotional intelligence impact and affect our relationships. So in practicing relationship management, what should we do? How do we practice this? Because one of the things, I think I failed to mention this earlier, one of the things we know is that emotional intelligence can be increased. Now, it's much harder, doesn't mean we can't, but it's much harder to increase our IQ. It's actually less challenging and more able to increase our EQ. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not a challenge, especially we talked about earlier when we have a blueprint in our brain, we have a way of doing things, patterns and habits and ways of being, sometimes even that we've been rewarded, even if it's rewarded negatively. We want to do things differently, but we know that we can be intentional to learn new patterns and habits and ways of being. So how do we do that in building better relationships? Well, it is more effective when you practice self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness. So it's very important that we practice these foundational elements in building healthier, stronger relationships. Remember to engage in the platinum rule and not just the golden rule. So we used to live by the golden standard of the golden rule in leadership training and development, which was do unto others as you would have done unto you. However, as we've learned more about human behavior, which now seems so obvious, what I want done unto me is not always what someone else wants done unto them. So for example, if I'm really chatty and I love having conversations in the morning and I want to hear about what you did last night in your kid's ball game or what you did this weekend and where you went hiking or how you're doing on that project or what's going on with your new boss, and you really would prefer not to share that information, and yet that's how I come in and greet you, might that impact our relationship? Might you find yourself hiding from me? Might you find yourself avoiding me? Of course. Now, if I practiced the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would have done unto them. Now, that doesn't mean I ignore you, but if you would prefer me just to say, hey, John, what's up? Hope you're doing well. And that's what you want, and that's what I give you. Might that enhance our relationship? Absolutely. But it does take self-awareness and self-management and social awareness of how you're impacting others to make those adjustments to practice that platinum rule. Next, it's important in relationship management to stay anchored in our values while adjusting our behaviors. Now, we talked about this earlier in one of our previous sessions. We talked about the buoy in the water and how the bottom part of the buoy has an anchor that holds down. That's your values. You can adjust your behaviors, but you need to stay true to your values. So if you haven't already identified your values, I encourage you to do that. In fact, we have a whole program at MSBCoach that's really founded in helping leaders identify their values. We actually take them through a series of branding themselves and identifying their brand, which a part of that is identifying your values. So knowing your values is important to practicing relationship management so you can adjust your behaviors. Next, slow down. Now, you heard me say this in one of the previous sessions, but when I go slow, I go fast. Slow down. Practice that social awareness. What are you observing? What are you observing about yourself? What are you observing about others? How is your behavior, what you've done previously or what you're about to do, how might it impact that relationship for the positive or the negative? And then what adjustments might you want to make accordingly? Pay attention. Pay attention. If you are on red alert and you are feeling frustrated and you are having an amygdala hijack, pay attention to that. Now, that person may have intentionally pressed your buttons. But even if they did, you can still be self-aware of what's happened and you can be self-managed to control yourself so that you don't damage that relationship. Now, again, you can't control anyone else, but you can control yourself. Ask questions. Now, wait until the current has settled down. I like to use the example of a snow globe. When you shake up a snow globe and there's the snow all floating around, a lot of times when we're feeling a whole lot of emotions, it's like that snow globe. Wait until those emotions settle and then ask questions. What was going on for you, Michelle? How are you feeling? What could I have done differently in that situation? May I share with you what would help me? if we have a situation like this to happen again, but really move to that place of, as we talked about in session 3, seeking to understand before being understood. And by the way, that's a Covey quote. When you stop expecting people to be perfect, you can like them for who they are. I love that quote. And by the way, that's for you too. Remember, we talked in session 2 about practicing self-compassion. Stop accepting yourself to be perfect so that you can like and love yourself just for who you are. Because before we can really care for others, we have to first like and care for ourselves. So what are the benefits of relationship management? Well, goodness, I wish we were sitting here talking. I'd love to hear feedback from you because I'm sure you could add to my list. But it helps us to develop other people. So it's not just about developing us. When we're in leadership roles, even if that's leadership of our own families, it helps us to develop others. It helps us to gain influence, helps us to build loyalty. When we really slow down and we work on these relationships, people feel more committed to us. It helps to improve communication, which communication is so effective. I think most relationships are broken due to miscommunication that's not even intentional. It helps us to manage conflicts. It helps us to improve our own leadership, whether we are in leadership by title or we are in leadership by leading ourselves. Remember that quote I shared last week about our own self-leadership. Self-management is about self-leadership. And it helps us to be the catalyst for change. So whether this is in our personal lives or our professional lives, when we are managing relationships in a healthy way, we are going to be much more likely to have influence to help bring about the change that would make things better. And when we do this, it helps to just literally tie us together and strengthen those bonds, which we can see is how we increase loyalty. I want you to think about some of your most important relationships, most valued relationships, personally and professionally. Do you have some of those in mind? Do you have conflicts with those people? Do you agree with everything? Of course you don't agree. Of course you have conflicts. But I bet in working through those things, the relationship has become deeper and the bonds are more strengthened. So keep that in mind in your relationship management, both personally and professionally. And then lastly, it helps us to build stronger realms of teamwork so that we can have higher levels of collaboration and working together because people don't have their guard up. They're not worried about what they say or how they say it because we're all working together. Because we're practicing the platinum rule, we're giving people the benefit of the doubt, we're seeking to understand before being understood, and all of a sudden it's like magic, how things start working. So in review, today we reviewed the 4 areas of emotional intelligence. Today's focus was the last in this 4-part journey, which we focused on relationship management. We talked about how do we practice relationship management, what are the benefits of relationship management. We reviewed what we're doing right now. And last but not least is your homework. So let's take a moment to look at that. So what most stood out to you from your social awareness homework? If you haven't already captured that, take a moment and jot that down, just one thing. Next, how can you apply what you have learned from this 4-course program to build better relationships? What is one area in which you will be intentional to be more effective in relationship building? Now here I'm going to add a little bit onto this that I didn't in the previous program, and that is, why is this important for you and for others? So what's in it for you? What's in it for them? How will you know that you're making progress in this area? And I could add to that, how will others know that you are making progress in this area? And then last but not least, who will support you and help to hold you accountable for what it is that you want to accomplish as you are being intentional to build new habits, new neurological pathways, new patterns, and ways of being in the world to make you show up the way that you are more confident, more self-controlled, and just overall a happier person with how you are being more emotionally in tune and centered. So it has been such a pleasure to be with you. I hope you've been able to join us for this whole 4-part series. I hope that it's been beneficial to you. Please give us your feedback. We would love to hear what you thought of this series. If you'd like more information or you want to share anything, my contact information is here. If you liked this series and it was really beneficial to you, please share it with others. That's what we want this to be about. That's why we did this, was just to give and to help others. So take care, be well, and we hope to stay connected with you. Bye-bye.